Hey, this is Jonathan with LongeCity.org, and this week on the LongeCity Now podcast, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be changing things up, and I am going to be interviewing Justin Loew, who is the founder of LongeCity, and he's the spokesperson. Today, he is the talking head that represents the Immortality Institute. And what I kind of wanted to do in this episode was explain to the people out there that kind of stumble across LongeCity. They're probably people like myself that have some insatiable pharmacological curiosity, and they're doing some late night Googling of some rare molecules that they are really interested in for their biohacking or for their anti-aging or for their PhD thesis, who knows? And they stumble across LongeCity and they're like, wow, this forum looks like many thousands of people who are also really passionate about anti-aging and science and philosophy and the future. And I wanted to explain what the story is behind LongeCity and let them know that it is more than just a forum, because there is a lot of forums out on the internet that are simply an amalgamation of people shouting at each other about science or philosophy or drugs, and LongeCity has got some more going on behind it. How you doing this morning, Justin?
Well, I'm doing just fine. Let me start out, though. I want to correct just one minor point, is though even though I was one of the original members of LongeCity, I wasn't the founder. I have served as a director, the executive director. I've been treasurer, membership secretary, spokesperson. Currently, I'm still membership secretary and also treasurer. So not an original founder, but pretty close to the beginning of LongeCity. Yes.
Okay, I'm curious, who did found it?
The original founder was Bruce Klein. And he also founded it with two other people, because in the U.S., in order to establish a nonprofit, you need three original directors. So it was Bruce Klein and his wife and Michael Anisimov that originally founded LongeCity, but back then it was known as the Immortality Institute, and that is how it is still officially recognized as a nonprofit in the U.S., even though it is really an international nonprofit organization. Our membership is all over the world.
And why did they choose nonprofit status?
Well, it was just the founder, the original board of directors thought it was the easiest way to promote life extension, and it's easier to manage. And perhaps a little easier to get people on board with your project, being a nonprofit. So that's, I guess, the main reasons why.
Okay, and what is the mission currently supporting?
Oh, the mission is to end the blight of involuntary death. Yes, it was originally named the Immortality Institute, and it became LongeCity as a kind of doing business as name about 4 or 5 years ago. People thought, Immortality Institute, it just kind of sounds a little bit radical, a little too radical for most people, even though the Institute was very successful in promoting life extension and also growing throughout the first, say, 8 or 9 years of its existence. But people thought, why not put a different name on our website to make it a little bit more inviting, so people don't have to grapple with the thought of radical life extension right away when they come to the front page. So it's been known as LongeCity for, I can't remember, it's about 4 or 5 years now. And for those who wonder about that name, I know that's a question that comes up pretty often, and it's basically a play on words, longevity, and also city, or community. Think of it as a community of people or a city of people who are interested in longevity. So that's how we came up with LongeCity.
For some people that are curious, can they easily meet up with the LongeCity community in the real world? Are there meetups?
Well, in the past, we certainly have had taken every opportunity that we could to meet up in the real world. Many life extension-based conferences or technology conferences often have a significant LongeCity presence. People go, congregate with similar, ideas and themes, of course. So there's been many times I've met with people in many different parts of the world, LongeCity members, and there have been meetups in the past. The most recent one that I'm aware of is one that I attended in Chicago in the U.S., and also we've had meetups that have occurred in Australia, in Canada, and like I said, at different conferences. So there is always opportunities. We haven't really sponsored an officially named LongeCity or Immortality Institute conference or meeting in a few years. But we do set aside part of our budget to help support people who want to do little meetups to talk about life extension, see who else is out there, meet up in the real world. So that's always a possibility. Usually if you're in the forum and you think, hey, I want to have a little conference, a little meetup, you can always talk with other members in the forum, and that's the best way to get something like that started.
Okay, I noticed there's a map section of the website that has kind of like either a Google Maps or its adversary, a Bing Maps, embedded with some of the members of the community. I was wondering how I might be able to add myself to that.
I'd have to check that out as far as the forum software goes. I think it might be in the sign-up process, but you caught me a little off guard with that question because, we go through some software upgrades from time to time, so I couldn't accurately answer that question just right now. But I think if you go through the sign-up process and you put in your location, like the state you live in, the country you live in, then it might show up on the maps.
Okay, yeah, I would love to help organize something here in Europe. So I'm curious, when people look at the website, they will see some banners for different products here and there on the website. What do those banners actually support? Are those products that are endorsed by LongeCity.org?
No, most of our advertisement is just most of our advertisement is automatic, like Google Ads, like AdSense, where you go to any website and you see Google Ads that are kind of context aware. So that's the way most of it goes. It's rare that we have ever endorsed anything officially because of significant liability with doing that. However, we do help advertisers with various methods of reaching the LongeCity audience. So we might help them, pick a particular forum where they might want to put a banner, or they can sign up for a sponsored forum thread where they can moderate that thread. So there are a lot of different options that advertisers can use to run ads on LongeCity site, but we don't warrant any of the products. We don't endorse any of the products. We hardly promote any products from any, we're agnostic on all products that are out there. People come to the website, they can just choose to, advertise if they want. You'll notice on some of those banners, right below the banner, it says, if you'd like to support LongeCity.org, rent this space or buy this ad space. So you can go through it, you just click on it, you've got a product to sell, then your banner goes up. It's, the rates are comparable, I guess, to other spots on the web where you might do banner advertisement. And just so everyone knows, LongeCity is a nonprofit. It's officially the Immortality Institute, and we get our revenue from advertising and from member donations. We have the paid membership option. You get some benefits by being a member. You get to vote on how the organization continues to do things in the future, what things should be supported. So yeah, we have member donations, we have advertising dollars, and that's how we make almost all of our income as a nonprofit.
And what are some of the, I assume, like immortality promoting or research organizations that are supported by LongeCity?
Well, we don't officially support any particular organization as an official partnership, but we have worked quite often with the SENS Research Foundation and Methuselah Foundation and Lifespan British Columbia. It's a new organization that formed a couple of years ago in Canada that is very active. So there have been some organizations where we have given multiple grants. And that's how we spend most of our money, supporting research into anti-aging and rejuvenation. We support through sponsoring specific research projects, and we also support the researchers themselves. That's one of the best things we've been doing over the last 4 or 5 years, is giving out scholarship money, grants to students at university when they're starting out and they have an interest in life extension. They're doing some sort of research that is applicable to human rejuvenation. We have given a lot of scholarships, tens of thousands of dollars out, and some of those students have gone on to start their own companies that are now working on methods of curing disease and rejuvenating the human body. So it's one of the best things we do.
So essentially, a couple times a year, you cut large checks to both students and to I'm assuming like a little bit smaller organizations of scientists that are working on solving a real specific issue around anti-aging.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Our budget this year, I think, is somewhere around $60,000 or $70,000. Our the money that we have available to spend, and we would spend maybe typically in the past about $20,000 on a specific research proposal. There is a possibility that we could spend a little bit more than that if it was a very good proposal, or if someone we knew who was where they're very dedicated, and you're definitely going to get the money's worth out of the research. We members at LongeCity could vote to expand the budget for research. But I should also say we do have budgets for meetups, like you mentioned earlier, and we do have a budget for advertising, marketing, graphics, website work, things like that. Small budgets to improve the site itself, the website, because that's our main, meeting place for everyone that is around the world.
And I'm curious, so if there's people that are out there that are interested in supporting LongeCity, but they have a whole lot more time than they have money, what's the best way for them to contribute to the science?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's just so many ways that you can contribute through LongeCity or through other organizations. I mean, there's almost all of the life extension organizations I know would take volunteers any day of the year, any week of the month. They would, if they have little tasks like promoting things on Facebook, or writing a little article here or there, or creating a little logo or a graphic to promote some new research or some product that they might be, putting out there. So anyone who has time can find a way to contribute, I'm sure. Now, at LongeCity, we do also offer a little bit of stipend amount for any independent contractors out there who would like to do some writing or would like to help with media and things like that. We do have a small budget for that, especially for software work, technical work on the website. We would certainly offer independent contractors a small amount of money for doing some work, upgrading our site. And you'll notice currently on the site, if you notice a little rotating banner that's in the upper right-hand corner, one of those that flashes up there says commissions. So we do offer a commission for certain types of work that we're looking to get done.
And if people have more money than time and they want to contribute to LongeCity, is there any kind of like tiers of donation levels that you guys recommend, or is there a place where people can check out the budget on the website?
Yes, we have the budget posted in our membership section for the paid members. Since they're the ones contributing their money, they get to help set the budget and see where all of the money is going. And our tax filing every year is, of course, open. The IRS, nonprofits, everything is publicly available there as well. As far as supporting through a membership, we have different levels, $25 for students or people who are of limited means. We have a reduced membership level there. $50 is standard yearly membership. It renews every year, $50. If you want to continue to support LongeCity and some of the research and the scholarships that we put out there, it's a good way, once a year, $50. We also have a lifetime membership option if you're really a dedicated life extension advocate. $500 one-time payment, and you're a lifetime member of LongeCity and the Immortality Institute. Otherwise, if you do have a lot more money than that, we would certainly encourage for everyone to keep their eye out for our fundraisers or for other types of initiatives we might be undertaking where there's significant cost, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 that we need to raise. Just monitor that, and if you have a little budget for donating to life extension and to nonprofits, we would certainly encourage you to continue to monitor our statements in our forum throughout the year as different things do pop up, and then you can make a larger contribution to a specific item of interest.
Okay, I wanted to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. So probably like a lot of people who are going to be watching or listening to this, I'm like really, my interest is just always piqued by new supplement science coming out. Like whenever there's a new racetam or a new smart drug molecule that its clinical trials start coming out, it's really tempting for me to find wherever it is and order it off the internet and start doing some self-quantification with it. And I know that smart drugs, anti-aging supplements are something that I think our community is really passionate about on a whole. Are there any smaller research projects that LongeCity has supported or has been directly or indirectly involved with that were specific to like supplements or nootropics that we actually did contribute to?
Well, not so much. And that's kind of an interesting thing. Originally, the Immortality Institute started as a nonprofit to promote life extension research and advocacy, things like that. And just by happenstance, a lot of people around the world who were drawn to the thought of life extension also wanted to, of course, try and enhance their own health, to stay alive as long as possible and to stay young and healthy. So, it was just natural that a lot of people discuss supplements and nootropics. So that just kind of grew through the years. A lot of people that come to LongeCity might mistakenly think that it's just a site dedicated to supplements and nootropics and lifestyle hacks and things like that, which is fine. I mean, that's great that people can come to LongeCity, and it is a very popular, maybe the most popular nootropics website in the world. That's great. But we don't focus on that specifically. However, members can have a say on future research support and things like that. Typically, we would want to support researchers and projects that have an application toward life extension and human rejuvenation. Most supplements and nootropics are more used for slowing the aging process, just keeping you in optimum health, not really reversing the process. So that is a little bit different philosophy, right? But we wouldn't be against it. I would say, as far as the members I know and the leadership at LongeCity. If members came together and said, hey, this is a neat project that we want to study about some specific nootropic that seems to be very promising for keeping people healthy and making people, smart. Members could vote and start a petition and say, hey, let's raise this such and such money, and most likely then we would support that, because it is, in the end, a member-supported organization, a nonprofit organization.
Okay. Something that I really appreciate about the forum is that it seems to me to be a place where I can get real, critical feedback on science, but I can also find, real polite discourse. So a lot of times there will be there'll be some supplement or some racetam that I'm thinking about trying, but I want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. And so I'll go out on the internet and I'll start researching it and start trying to make sense of what the studies are saying about it. And I'll find just a lot of rudeness out there on Reddit or wherever. But it seems to me that a lot of times I'll go on LongeCity and I'll say, okay, this is my understanding of what such and such molecule does in our systems, or what it's hypothesized to do based upon such and such rat study that was done. And people are generally pretty polite on LongeCity, and sometimes I will be completely off base on something, and people who are really legitimate scientists, who are people that if I was gonna hire them for their opinions on an hourly rate, it would be something that I couldn't afford. But I'll find that I can get really polite yet critical feedback from those kind of people on LongeCity.
Yeah. We put a lot of work in through the years in moderating the site, and we're always adjusting our rules to try and keep the discourse very high and useful. So a lot of times, I know people, if you're just coming to the site for the first time, you might feel as though you're getting put down when some of the more scientific-minded people come in and say, hey, that's just complete bull. They'll tell you, that study is no good, or they'll tell you that this has been refuted, or straight up, but that's the feedback that you should hope to get. And we do moderate to try and keep the discourse very professional. And we would really like to continue to get a more scientific discussion of almost all the topics that you see on the site. That's something that we've always strived for, and luckily enough, we do have a lot of people who are biohackers, but also very willing to quantitate what they're doing, and to quantify what they're doing, and also back things up with research. So that's one of the nice things about LongeCity, is that you can get honest feedback and you can get some quality feedback.
And Justin, are there any forum members that you'd like to give shout outs to?
Well, I'll tell you what, through the years, I've been around with the organization for almost 15 years now. So I've corresponded with thousands of people, and many of them have helped me with certain things. Many of them have helped the organization. I just couldn't really name hardly anyone right now, although I will give a shout out to Caliban at the Institute. He was one of the original directors, and he's been with the organization pretty steady for the entire time. And he might not always be easy to deal with online when you're trying to speak with him, but he is definitely a dedicated life extension and cryonics advocate, and we're lucky that he has been able to help maintain the site as is through the last few years.
Okay, I think I'd like to give a shout out to Adaptogen. He's the guy I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't frequent the nootropic forums all that much, but I know, Adaptogen, there's a few others in there that are just amazing with their references, and their logical discourse and things like that. So yeah, you're right. There are a lot of great users out there.
Are there any site sections or forum sections that you don't think get the attention they deserve on LongeCity?
I'll tell you what, since the nonprofit is officially kind of motivated by life extension, radical life extension, I would hope that perhaps in the future we would get more discussion about current regenerative medicine. There's a lot of studies that come out that say this molecule or this process or this will help rejuvenate this part of your body or things like that. And we really would like to see more discussion of that, to be kind of a clearinghouse to vet a lot of the ideas for rejuvenation and regeneration of the human body. So nootropics, supplements, and everything take the lion's share of the site's traffic right now, which is fine. People definitely want to live healthy and they want to be the best they can be, which is great. I'm glad that the site does provide that. But more discussion on some biomedical theories and rejuvenation therapies, things like that, would be great. Yeah. And more in the project ideas forum, perhaps. When you have an idea for a project that LongeCity could do or some research that LongeCity could support, always remember that. We have an ideas forum where you can post. And, of course, we can't do everything. The ideas forum is full of thousands of ideas over the last decade, but it's always good to see new ones. So.
Cool. I will make an effort to check out those site sections. I suppose that smart drugs are kind of the gateway drugs to anti-aging for a lot of people.
Well, I suppose, that seems to be the case nowadays. Once you do start researching nootropics, you're probably going to come across the topic of life extension. And if you're trying to, enhance yourself, trying to be as smart as you can be, well, you're probably going to think about being as healthy as you can be as well. So the two kind of go hand in hand.
Okay, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your personal story. Recently, you had interviewed Zoltan, and he had kind of like an exciting personal story about his moment with a landmine, where a landmine almost killed him, and that got him really interested in immortality. And I was wondering if you had any, if you had some if you had such an acute turning point episode in your personal story that got you so interested in this.
Nope, I really can't say it. I would say it was just always in me. When I was growing up, I grew up in a religious tradition in the U.S. and, people always, the subject of death always comes up, and I just never kind of thought that it was inevitable. I don't know why. Ever since I was 2 years old, 4 years old, every time people would talk about death and I would think about, people getting sick and old and diseased, I'm like, well, it doesn't have to happen, right? What's out there, what's at the end of your life, heaven and hell and all that type of stuff. It just never, I guess it never took hold of me. So I always thought that we could fix things. I always thought that we could live longer. It was never a question in my mind. I was always questioning people who said that, we shouldn't live longer or we shouldn't, rejuvenate people. But I guess the one funny story about getting involved with the Immortality Institute is that it was spam, not the meat product. Yeah, not the meat product. No, I was just kind of trolling along a few forums, not actual trolling. I'm just saying I was perusing various forums on the internet like Kurzweil, AI.net, and things in the early days. And what the founder of the Immortality Institute, I think, saw my name there in one of those other forums and just sent me a random email out of the blue and just said, hey, join my forum. It was just a forum about life extension discussion, and so I joined up, and then that was how I got involved with the LongeCity. Yeah.
Okay, my story kind of has some parallels. Here's a real personal question. So, personally, I have done a pretty bad, I came from a religious background like yourself, and probably like yourself, I'm not religious at all anymore. However, I've done a pretty bad job of proselytizing this idea of transhumanism to my friends or to my family, and I guess like my old childhood friends, like the people that I grew up with, that we were all religious a long time ago, and now I'm not religious at all, and they still are. Yet I haven't made an effort to proselytize or share my new systems of belief with them at all. Have you had a similar experience, or have you tried to share? Have you made attempts to share this more, I guess, technological and transhumanistic belief system with people that might be uncomfortable with it?
Yeah, it's been a difficult thing, but has gotten easier through the years. And I would like to say that, LongeCity isn't anti-religious at all, that religious and belief practices are compatible with life extension, and curing disease. I mean, people of all stripes and beliefs want to, help people live healthy and help people be happy. So it's not like religion and life extension is incompatible, that's for sure. But yeah, I think it's gotten easier through the years. Because I've gotten older, and I just finally kind of at some point said, I don't care what people think about, my activities. I think that it's a wonderful thing to try and strive for. Curing disease, a lot of people, everyone supports that, right? And you just have to go a little farther and think, okay, we cure this disease, that disease, this third disease, and this fourth disease, and now people are going to live really, really long. Is that a good thing? Of course, it's a good thing. And so I'm not ashamed or afraid to say, I'm signed up for cryonics, and I would like to see us live a long, long time and eradicate disease and things like that. I don't know, talking with your family about things like that when they've never heard of it before is very difficult. One tip I would say is that oftentimes you're in a conversation where people are talking about cancer or Alzheimer's. They have an old parent who has Alzheimer's and stuff. And that's a good way to at least bring up the topic of curing Alzheimer's and cancer and heart disease. And then people say, yeah, that'd be great. And, you can just kind of get on a little conversation about that. And that, yeah, living longer, that'd be great. I'd love to live to 100 or 200 if I was in great shape. And most everyone says, well, yeah, me too. So, it is tough because a lot of the world still to this day, amazingly, even though everyone can see how technological progress is advancing so fast and that there is such a potential to help people live healthier and happier and longer, it's still difficult to bring up the topic of, what do we do when we've cured most of these diseases and people are going to be healthy and living to 120 and 150 and 200. It's still tough to talk about that. So we actually have some discussions that have gone on at LongeCity about how to confront different arguments against life extension and how to discuss things with your parents or your friends, or we've talked about it quite a bit through the years. But as I've gotten a little bit older and just kind of gotten comfortable with the fact that I'm a very strong advocate for life extension and cryonics, it's just gotten easier.
One way that I like to kind of articulate it is that whenever someone dies, a library burns. There's just a huge amount of knowledge that leaves the world. And if there's a way of preventing that book burning, then that would just be profoundly beautiful. And I don't meet a lot of people that can disagree with that sentiment. Okay, so getting a little bit more practical, what types of supplements and or anti-aging technology do you use regularly?
Well, not too much because I'm a little bit risk averse, I would say, maybe more than most LongeCity members. So it's mainly diet and exercise that I use to stay healthy. Uh, right now, I have a little organic garden that I grow. Actually, it's pretty big. I grow a lot of food that I store for winter time and things. So I have my own vegetables and things like that, my own food products. And then I exercise quite a bit. If I'm not, I'm riding a bike to work and I'm staying active. I'm in the garden. I'm running. I'm jogging. Whatever. Playing sports, things like that. I'm active almost every single day. So that's the main thing and the easiest thing that I think most people can do. That if they don't realize it, exercise is phenomenal for life extension and staying healthy. But other than that, as far as supplements go, I really don't have the financial means to do a lot of supplements. So at times I'll take a multivitamin, low dose multivitamin, and then D3, vitamin D3 seems to, most of the things that are pretty tame but have a lot of research through many decades and extremely low side effects or extremely low potential for anything negative, like vitamin D3, in the 1,000 IU unit. The research is good and the downside is almost nothing. Same thing with aspirin. I take a low dose aspirin. Has been proven through the years to be helpful, but hardly any negative side effects except gastrointestinal bleeding. But again, that's not a huge side effect. I mean, if you happen to get that, you stop, and then also melatonin. I originally, use that a little bit for sleep aid, but it does have some evidence behind it that it is also, health promoting. And off and on, I guess the main nootropic I use is just caffeine because it's the most popular around the world and it works and it's actually healthy for you. And I guess I've tried vinpocetine a little bit in the past. And there might have been some other, I can't remember exactly, there might have been some other mixtures that I got a free sample of or something at some time in the past that I've tried. But my regimen is pretty tame.
Okay, so you haven't had any extraordinarily good or bad experiences with any supplements.
Oh, that's right, because usually I do the research and I kind of stick with what's known and to not have many negative side effects. And it's been known, a supplement has been known for years. Fish oil is another one that I had taken off and on through the years. So yeah, nothing too radical. No, and no negative. I've never had really anything I could quantify that was negative from the supplements that I do take.
Okay. As far as biohacking technology, have you dabbled with anything like HRV or TCSD, anything like that?
PCSD is one thing I would like to try because of the emerging research that's coming out about. It's amazing that you can use that technology in order to enhance your brain function. I mean, just many years ago, I wouldn't have really guessed that that would be a viable approach. And it's kind of non-invasive, kind of, I mean, you don't have, I mean, in the physical aspect, you don't have to actually, you know, go through any barrier into your.
there's no entry.
That's right. That's right. So that's something I was thinking about, and also as far as the supplements, nootropics, modafinil or modafinil, that's one that seems to have very low side effects or very low potential for downsides or negative side effects. I would say once it becomes over the counter, I would probably try that one. In order to I don't know if to make myself smarter, but in order to manage my productive hours and my rest hours a little bit better, because all of us some days we're just not awake, for whatever reason, and it would be neat to be able to use a supplement like that to make sure there's 8 to 10 hours a day where I can be doing productive things and concentrating well, and then once the effect wears off, then it's rest time, and it's still able to get good sleep. Some people report when they use that, they don't get good sleep, but it at least hints at the potential for managing your productive time a little bit better and staying awake when you want to be awake, things like that. And then also Metformin. I wouldn't mind trying that. That's another one that's prescription only right now, although in my view, it should be pretty much over the counter. I would do that kind of.
Beta-formin, you said? You said beta-formin?
Metformin. Metformin, the diabetes drug, because in low doses that has shown kind of similar effects to what you would get from aspirin and things like that, as far as slowing aging, very low side effects, very cheap. So that's something, yeah, metformin and modafinil would be something I would think of trying, and transcranial stimulation.
Have you dabbled with any brain training software?
Yes, I can't remember the name of it. Yes, I have, but I can't remember. It was supposed to improve my memory, and must not have worked, right? Because I can't remember the name of it right now. I think it began with a C, Curiosity, maybe.
Lumosity.
There you go. Yes, Lumosity. I got for Christmas. I got a membership to that for a year, so I tried it out, and it seemed like it worked a little bit to help my concentration a little bit. You know, I thought it was fun, and I understand the basis of it. You go through mental exercises, your brain, just like your muscles, needs to exercise in certain ways in order to, become proficient in certain things. So, I got the idea behind it. I dropped it after a while. I guess, it does take time to do those mental exercises every day. But Lumosity was the one I tried.
Lumosity, you do need to use it persistently for it to improve your memory. I used Lumosity myself for about 4 months, and I found that it was a lot of fun, but this is kind of my criticism of Lumosity, is that those little games that you play in it, you only play them for about 60 seconds, each little game, right? And then you either go to the next level or you go to the next little game, which is, I think that's kind of like their way of trying to account for how ADD people are nowadays and for how short of an attention span people have. There's another brain training task. It's called the dual end-back task. Have you heard of that one? And I highly recommend that. You can find it for free a bunch of different places on the internet. I highly recommend it because it actually requires you to really focus in for about 15 minutes. And really for about 15 minutes, you won't be able to think about anything else other than keeping track of the little audio visual memory challenge that it gives you. And I think in that respect, it really builds your focus muscles a whole lot more than LongeCity did. Or no, than Lumosity did, sorry. Okay, so yeah, for personal development, what do you do outside of managing the website, managing the community? What do you do to get out of your comfort zone?
I do try different things once in a while, different sports. I try and read a lot of scientific articles and publications, things like that. I guess, I don't get out of my comfort zone too much. I have a career as a meteorologist, so I keep up on that end of things, and I've got my garden to keep.
You're not jumping out of airplanes naked or fighting sharks or anything like that?
No, I guess if I think of something, I'll let you know. But I don't have like a strong desire to do things like that. I guess the most interesting thing coming out that will probably push my boundaries a little bit would be virtual reality, the headsets that are coming out, and and how that will probably inspire more intricate virtual worlds, kind of like Second Life was, but just a ton more in depth. And to be in a virtual world like that would definitely push boundaries, I would think, and really expand, possibilities. So that's something maybe in the near future I would try.
Are you worried at all that the virtual worlds they will create will just be so compelling and addictive that the real world will just pale in comparison?
Yes. I mean, there's no question. I mean, you see people already essentially living in a virtual world through Facebook, through their phones, their mobile devices, and Instagram and things like that. People don't generally like the way their life currently is. And on the internet, on the social media sites, you get to craft the way you are more than you do get to do that in the real world. And people are amazingly addicted to that, to be able to control your image, control, what you see, what you don't. So with the advent of virtual worlds, I can see that, happening even more. So yes, the answer is definitely yes. I think people will definitely get addicted to it. Now, is that, addiction carries a negative connotation, but I don't know if it's going to be something that is extremely negative for people. If people just spend all their time in their own virtual world, as long as they're healthy and happy and they're in that virtual world and that's what they would like to do, and who am I to argue that they should be out here in the real world and experiencing pain and misery, like that. So maybe it's just a natural evolution to create your own little paradise in your own virtual world.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how that may change pretty radically the population in the next 25 to 30 years.
It will be very interesting. That's right. I mean, back when I was young, of course, all the science fiction was about space travel or flying cars. Everything was based, though, mostly in the real world, the very popular science fiction. Not a lot of it dealt with virtual worlds, but it does seem that is the way we're going. More than, spreading into outer space, we're spreading into inner space, into, virtual worlds.
Okay, so I was kind of thinking that we could take a quick look at a couple of threads on LongeCity that were recent popular threads. So there was one that I had selected that was on TDCS, and so we already talked about that. There was another one that I thought was maybe a little bit more philosophical, and they were asking, is it possible to not have fear? And this particular thread inspired like hundreds of responses. Oh, okay. It inspired 200 responses of people talking about. There was a guy initially saying, like, hey, would taking anxiolytic supplements, taking anxiolytic pills, if I can decrease or deal with my anxiety by taking anxiolytics, is it possible to just reduce down to having no fear at all? And people actually started getting pretty technical on their responses to this. A lot of people were talking about ways of diminishing the responsiveness that the amygdala has to fear, and that it'd be possible to modulate the amygdala down to a level where you'd have almost no fear, but the side effects of this they'd be disastrous.
Yeah, I haven't read that thread all the way through, although I know it was very popular. So yeah, my personal experience. Of course, in our current physical bodies, the fear response is very useful. So I wouldn't want to completely bring it down to zero because you probably end up dead in the current world that we live in. But I can't really comment too much on that particular thread. I didn't follow that one in depth.
You said that you would characterize yourself as more risk averse.
Well, I know a lot of the LongeCity members do a lot of the biohacking and try a lot of different supplements, and it's very interesting, to see people, taking that risk and sharing their information. I mean, it's great. But yeah, I guess I'm just a little bit more risk averse, just probably because of the culture that I grew up in, in the region, the world I grew up in, living in the country kind of. And so, yeah, I would say I'm a little bit more risk averse.
Well, I'm a Midwest boy like yourself. I'm from Colorado.
Oh, okay.
So I'm curious. I guess I'm not so risk averse. I'm kind of like, let's try everything once so that I have good stories to tell people. And I guess my embracing of risk when it comes to the biohacking is that it seems like it's pretty rare that I come across stories where people were doing some sort of biohacking or they were trying some new research substance and it turned out really bad.
It's pretty rare. Seems like it.
Seems to me that the risks of biohacking are just a whole lot lower than science fiction movies would have us believe.
Yeah, usually there's a lot of techno-pessimism out there for trying new things, of course. But then you got to be careful when you're reading a biohacking site like LongeCity, where people are trying a lot of different things. You have to realize that if someone tried a specific supplement and they died, you're not going to know about it because they're not posting about it, and their friends probably aren't coming online and posting about it either. So you don't really know the true sample size and all of the negative side effects, perhaps. Just something to think about. But it's good that a lot of the supplements that people do try do have some research behind them, animal research, epidemiological research, and things like that. Yeah, most of them do.
You're right. There may be some literal survivor's bias.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Going on with that, one of the threads that was also kind of popular and related to the point that you made there was people talking about Methylene Blue, which is kind of like the blue hot, the white hot new smart drug, which I actually have not even tried this one.
Yeah, it's another, I would have to say, I'll just cut you off there because I haven't read that thread completely through either, nor do I know much about the pharmacokinetics of Methylene Blue either, so I don't have too much to contribute on that aspect.
Yeah, I just know that it has
I'm glad.
Science behind it.
Yeah. I'm glad though that people are openly discussing it anyway, and hopefully we can get more information about it.
And then the final thread I wanted to run past you was actually one that I submitted. And in this thread, I said that I am actually next week going to visit Chernobyl because I'm living here in Kiev, and I found a company that I could book a day tour to visit the abandoned city of Chernobyl. And I was like, you only live once. I might as well
try something different.
I might as well try it out. Do you have any, since you have such a science background, do you have any recommendations of maybe things that I should take to protect my DNA?
Well, I want you'd have to check with the tour company and make sure they don't take you too close to they probably have an exclusion zone yet where you can't get that close. I mean, I don't know with the tour company if they're like, how close they get you to the reactor. Of course, all I could ever think about is potassium iodide, to prevent thyroid cancer. because that's the most common that occurs when you're exposed to radiation, large doses of radiation. But the main thing I would do is to check with there is publicly known a certain perimeter around Chernobyl where it's safe to get to a certain distance. And I would just check that out and make sure your touring company isn't taking you right up to the cement sarcophagus, the old reactor,
Yes, you're right, Gus. It's called the exclusion zone,
Right.
and they're going to be taking us to like the center of that. They're going to be taking us
Right.
to where you can see the reactor head that
really?
lifts up in the air.
Interesting.
So yeah, we're going to be like pretty close, and on their website they claim they're like, oh, it's completely safe. It's completely safe.
Well, typically,
to worry about.
Safe. I don't know if there's such a thing as safe radiation doses, but we get all kinds of radiation all year long. In a short little exposure. I don't know. I'm not all that up on nuclear radiation like that. If you're there for a minute and you're out of there or something, how much of an effect it would have on you. But sounds interesting. Let us know how that goes.
Thanks, I sure will. Some of the other responses, people are saying, yeah, iodine, and they're also saying that the adaptogens, there's a variety of rhodiola that people are recommending. So I will, I'll let you know if I survive.
Okay.
Well, hey, it was real nice to chat with you, get to know you a little bit better, and hear a little bit more about LongeCity. I want to let people know we are going to be publishing this to the LongeCity YouTube channel. Yeah. So if they want to see what we look like, we would encourage people to check this out on YouTube and to also subscribe to our YouTube channel. YouTube is a place where an incredible amount of attention is going nowadays.
That's right. And I want to say that we hope to get our audio podcast posted on YouTube here soon. I mean, the whole database of all the podcasts that I've done throughout the years, probably hundreds. Hopefully we'll start to get more of them on the YouTube channel. Yeah. So look forward to that in the future as well.
Okay, great. And there's definitely, YouTube just gives us so much more content format that we can share with people in regards to anti-aging, immortality, the different things we've discussed here. So I encourage people to go ahead and subscribe to that channel whenever they get the chance.
Yep. All right. Well, it's great talking to you today, Jonathan.
Likewise. Thanks, Justin.